The year is 2006. Pixar Animated Studios is coming off the high of their hit movie The Incredibles, placing the studio on the forefront of 3D animated films. A small company known as Walt Disney Picture Studios decided to purchase Pixar, placing one John Lasseter at the head. Soon to direct a small movie surrounding a celebrity race car voiced by Owen Wilson, finding himself lost in a western town called Radiator Springs. On the verge of a piston cup, this lost sports car must find his way through a seemingly forgotten town full of quirky small-town cars. One of those cars being the loud, clueless, and friendly old tow truck who came out of the first movie with mixed impressions. One, Tow Mater would debut once again 5 years down the road in the year of 2011. Not as the rusted-up and beat-down sidekick, no. As the lead man in a 3D animated tribute to spy thrillers. Not Cars 1. Cars... Oh, hey, it's been a while. Oh, the guy who made a Ninjago video then proceeded to promptly go off to college? Yep, that's me. You probably forgot you were subscribed to me. I didn't. I never forget. And now it's time to return to that series and deliver once again a long-awaited Ninjago video essay. Now let's just see here. What season are we doing? One of my favorites. Cars 2. The sequel is hands down one of the most make-or-break decisions a soon-to-be movie series can make. You have The Dark Knight, Shrek 2, The Empire Strikes Back, Toy Story 2. But you also have sometimes where sequels don't go very well.
Let's go gambling! Aw, dang it. 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 Aw, dang it.
On one side of the coin, you can further develop your cast and introduce new roles and conflicts, while further enhancing the world you've established in the original entry. Or you can take the original film and completely ruin its reputation. Cars 2 is one of the most hated Pixar films to date. In fact, it is the lowest rated on Rotten Tomatoes, which is interesting because Cars 1 is already such a heartwarming, charming, and interesting movie to come out of Pixar, still holding its name in popularity on the internet and through merchandise. And although not immediately reaching the same standard of storytelling as some other Pixar movies, it still holds a major presence in the original and modern Pixar lineup. Now you might be thinking, just what the hell happened? I'm here to defend one of my favorite Pixar movies, and honestly, one of my favorite movies, period. Unfortunately, Cars 2 doesn't hold the best track record. It's ridiculed for being uninspired, convoluted, and unfortunately bad. It's called the first bad Pixar movie, which is both harsh based on its weight class not being obnoxious banana Tic Tacs, and also unfortunate because it's merely the outlier of its time. Considering this movie had to follow up another film which already stuck out like a sore thumb considering its confusing world building and tonguage, Cars 2 was in a tricky spot to adapt this world of racing into a new story. So let's start from the beginning.
Finn, I need backup, but don't call the cavalry, it could blow the operation.
So, first thoughts, where is Radiator Springs, and where's the Piston Cup? The first few moments in this movie establish exactly what the audience is getting into. It is a stark difference from the first film to see a distress video followed by a spy car in a location somewhere deep at sea. Now at this point, I had to make sure I was watching the right movie. Am I sure I didn't click on James Bond? I guess the dead giveaway is the extremely apparent cartoon vehicle taking up my screen.
I'm looking for a car.
Holy shit, is that Alfred?
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Here we're given our first introduction to the obviously evil German car, Professor Zundap.
Very carefully. Sehr good.
Oh, it's just a TV camera.
This camera is extremely dangerous.
Jesus! Finn McMissile. Holy cow, they actually named him that. Finn. No, we're not that close yet. Agent McMissile tries to get a closer look at the camera in probably the least suspicious and assuming way possible.
Oh, yeah, this one we caught sticking his bumper where it didn't belong.
Agent Leland Turbo.
Okay, a lot of things to unpack here. First, McMissile has a full-on gun. Just a gun. We experienced probably one of the most brutal animated death reveals of a character we were just introduced to, followed by the opening big chase scene. Now, as this plays out, I want to talk a bit about this opening sequence. Oh my god. What immediate stakes this movie instantly provides. I mean, sure, they're cartoon cars, but the instant graphic details surely caused some families to leave the theater, especially for a G-rated movie. I mean, throwing the action immediately on the screen with a high-paced and action-packed escape. Pair that with a beautiful soundtrack, because every time I watch this movie, I am blown away with how immediately recognizable and impactful the music is. This scene builds up to this climactic explosion, and what a spectacle of how quickly this movie is able to genre shift the entire Cars universe. Now, all the Pixar elitists might claim this to be a poor narrative shift, but in my eyes, it provides a really unique take on the world, not through the limitations of what a world of Cars can do, but rather honing that distinct subject into a new narrative. I mean, just look at this shot again. The smoke burning before McMissile's glossy paint while the torch lights up in the background. The subtle pan-up centering his lights before the car bursts backwards out of frame, cutting immediately to a reaction. It takes the simple trope of a hero backed into the corner, shocking the enemy by taking the dangerous leap of faith with exaggerated swagger. But it does so by a sick burnout. Cut to a beautiful wide shot to establish the scale before McMissile plunges into the dangerous waters. Without even a second of suspense in the audience, he pops back out and begins the water chase. All I'm doing is saying exactly what's shown as a testament of exactly how powerful this opening scene is. And it helps that it's extremely wacky and cartoonish. I mean, look how fast these boats fall and accelerate. In this world, they're sentient and conscious beings with cartoonish physics, which lends itself to the absurd pacing perfectly. Something that, as an homage, isn't easy to replicate in live-action film because of continuity and, well, physics. I love the camera work here, as it pans out to reveal the boats, which is such a simple effect with the possibilities of 3D animation, and yet it works so well in simulating this sense of gaining on McMissile and altering the perspective. The music reaches this huge glissando before the piece halts and leads the viewer suspenseful of if McMissile really survived the explosion, before creeping that music back in a slow underwater reveal. Holy cow. What an incredible first scene. Probably my favorite prologue to any movie, and I'm serious. How the hell are you gonna top that thrilling sequence?
Mater, Tow Mater, that's who.
Oh. Okay, well, good to know I got the right movie. We find ourselves back in Radiator Springs, a familiar place with familiar faces once again. Here we get to see if Cars 2 can handle the characters from the original. Don't worry, Tow Mater is here to provide great service to this, lemon? Oh, we're gonna have to get used to that, aren't we? Is this like a car derogatory term? What are they trying to... We're able to see Lightning McQueen's legacy left from the first movie. Now with the image of a celebrity, 4 piston cups under his belt, and a big part of Radiator Springs' reputation.
Congratulations, you're not just famous for racing.
But where do you rank a guy like Lightning McQueen with 7 piston cups?
I would tell you he wouldn't be the GOAT. How are you going to be the GOAT?
Mater gets a little carried away seeing McQueen, leading to one of our first extremely drawn out visual gags. Get used to those. We get reintroduced to the cast from the original as each gets their own one-liner before Mater butts in and gets to reunite once again with a signature, wheel shake. I'm really glad we get a scene showcasing the reputation of Doc Hudson. It's brief, but it gives a lot of emotional conclusion to Doc's story. I wish it was more of an integral piece to the story of this film, but it's still given its moment. There's honestly a lot of fun to be had in these bonding scenes, which feel like a tribute to the original. It's impressive how strong the comedy is, at least in the first half of this movie.
This ain't gonna be good.
It's clearly showing its ability to appeal as a fun, entertaining kids movie, even if it just followed up a morbid action scene. The mood kinda drops when McQueen breaks it to Mater that he's planning on going out with Sally that night, which, although being extremely equal prioritization, it still hits Mater pretty hard.
I want you.
What? I find it interesting how they use their last names in this movie, almost similar to how like Japan does it in formal settings, or how we have Mr. and Mrs., etc. But also, was he just born Lightning McQueen? Getting back to the movie, I find the casual dialogue of Cars movies to be either really witty or a little too blatant. I know this is more of a note for the universe as a whole, but I always find it amazing how expressive they manage to make the cars of the universe to be. Trying to replicate human movement through, appendages? It's almost like a personification, if you will. I mean, they're literally at a restaurant ordering car alcohol. That's ignoring the fact that in the prologue, McMissile uses an oxygen mask, implying that cars have, lungs.
Wait up, what's McQueen's usual?
Come faccio a saperlo?
Perfect, give me 2 of them.
Okay, maybe this movie's funny. The main plot of this movie is introduced, unfortunately through a television broadcast, but it's established. Sir Miles Axelrod, blah blah blah, explorer now electrifying fuel, very predictable how he's gonna turn out, and a big racing competition to show off this renewable fuel source. It's a pretty logical scale up from the previous movie, taking it literally to a world tour scale. Wait, a sequel about a world tour. Oh no. I'm calling it the World Grand Prix. This is all presented on the Meldorado Show, taking great inspiration from wealthy and charismatic late-night hosts. A sleek golden Cadillac Eldorado voiced by Patrick Walker. When Googling the voice, I'm not exactly sure this is the same guy the wiki meant. Axelrod is of course depicted as this super charismatic British visionary, and he's voiced by one of the few openly gender-fluid voice actors in the industry, which is always really good to see. Here we're introduced to the rival and antagonistic Francesco Bernoulli, who clearly has one of the most Italian-sounding names I think Disney could come up with. He's modeled after a more modern Formula 1 car and actually named after the Bernoulli principle, which is really cool. It does raise the very glaring issue of different car types racing against each other, but I am nowhere near qualified enough to talk about that. I need you to tell me, which one's a Chevy? Oh, god damn it! The talk show now shifts to accepting callers.
Let's go to Radiator Springs. You're on, caller.
Hey, you're just mad because I'll be able to do something with my fucking guitar in hands that you'll never be able to achieve in your entire life, kid. So yeah, you're gay.
Mater starts beefing with Francesco, which clearly causes some bickering.
When I want to go to sleep, I watch one of his races. After 2 laps, I am out. Cold.
This has to be one of the most brutal roasts from any antagonist ever. McQueen and Sally butt in, leading to Sally's unfortunate character simplification in this movie. She's kind of just used as this means to get McQueen jealous of Francesco instead of, actually helping him find his purpose and freedom. We get a bit more car racism before McQueen promptly interrupts to defend Mater.
Deal me in, baby. Ka-chow! Yeah! How'd you like to come and see the world with me?
You mean it?
Yeah, you got me into this thing. You're coming along.
All right.
Yeah, we won't regret that later. We see the beginning of McQueen's tentativeness to bring Mater, followed by an exciting travel montage. Editor Tyler here. I forgot to mention that McQueen got a new paint job. It's really cool. It's cool. There's such a beautiful irony of using a song from the band The Cars in a movie called Cars, even though it's covered by... Oh my God, it's Weezer! I don't think the sequence is as iconic as Life is a Highway, but it fits just as well. This song really captures and foreshadows Mater's relationship with McQueen, trying to disprove his label as this loud and high-maintenance companion. And here we land in Japan, which is represented super well in this universe. Everything is all bright and reflective with a car part vending machine and sleeping pods. As someone who just got back from Japan, it's honestly a really good, exaggerated representation, minus the streets being not nearly as packed. I also love the extremely Western and foreign-sounding Japanese that Mater tries to replicate.
Now, I would trust him to say mayonnaise.
Mio de noche.
Whoa!
The gang arrives at the World Grand Prix pre-show hangout, and Mater immediately books it. Oh my god, I love this scene. Okay, so here we have a little indoor Zen garden worker who's modeled after a lot of rural trucks in Japan. So he's raking, and guess what Mater taps on the glass to tell him?
Hey! You done good. You got all the leads.
I don't know if it's the shift from the J-pop song Polyrhythm playing in the background to just the immediate silence inside the glass, but something about this joke lands every single time I watch this movie. McQueen goes to immediately break up and babysit his friend, which goes about as horrible as it can go, prompting a confrontation between McQueen and Francesco. I love how much Francesco refers to himself in the third person. I can't tell if it's a byproduct of English being his second language or just showing how egotistical he is, but I am here for it. Francesco is such an amazing little rival character. He might not live up to the same level as Randall, Syndrome, and Chick Hicks, but I find the cocky tone and flaunting remarks towards McQueen to be so perfect. I feel like this is such a perfect racing rivalry for a sequel. I honestly can't remember what's so different about this movie. Oh, yep, that's it. The music shifts from Axelrod's ceremony fanfare to a mellow spy remix from the opening sequence, beginning to merge the two stories together. We meet the other agent of this movie as Finn is scanning the cameras of this event. Agent Holly Shiftwell. That's also just a stupid name. Agent Holly Shiftwell confronts McMissile with a spy confirmation code. That's meant to be a super specific question, but ends up just sounding very obvious if you live in a world with only cars, but I guess that relies on a specific response? I don't know. They enter the elevator and unpack so much information, it's hard to even start. The camera appeared to be a regular TV camera.
This isn't a life support machine! This was just a bread box!
The cars from the prologue are sitting on the biggest oil reserve, and there's an American spy originally sent to the rig who has a better photo of the guy running the operation. The American spy is going to pass the data to McMissile today at his signal. I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Ah, shit. You see, Mater mistakes wasabi for pistachio ice cream. because he's just silly like that.
This is now going to be in my head for the rest of the day. The rest of the day.
How about that pistachio ice cream?
No, wasabi.
Oh, same old, same old. What's up with you? That looks delicious.
Okay, that's enough of that.
Which unfortunately leads to Mater, yeah.
Competition. Someone get me water. Oh, quick relief.
I love how much echo there is on the word turned, but oh my gosh, this scene just reeks of secondhand embarrassment. Especially when Mater leaks oil all over the stage, which he claims to never do. Is that like peeing in this Cars universe? Is he like peeing all over the stage? Why would cars lose oil when they pee? Don't they need oil? Do cars pee? Why do they need bathrooms? Mater runs into the bathroom and has a minor misunderstanding of the kanji before heading into a proper stall. Oh my god, this scene rocks so hard. So Mater is having a bit of trouble with the bidet before cutting outside to the American agent, changing appearance, while Mater is screaming his little heart out in the stall. The scene of Mater in the bathroom is honestly one of the most iconic scenes in this entire film. Also, how do cars use sinks? The American spy becomes surrounded by bad guys and pulls out a Glock? Why is this movie rated G? Mater had the tracker planted on him, leaving the American spy behind, leading to the best line in this movie.
That gum pistachio ice cream.
This cannot be him.
Is he American?
Look out, ladies. Mater's fitting to get funky.
Extremely.
Then it's him.
As I brought up earlier, Tow Mater, with his knowledge of older cars, is easily able to get through the spy code and immediately be assumed to be a spy. Now you might think, oh, Mater will just tell her he's not one and she'll figure it out. But nope, they base the entire movie off of Mater's ability to answer this one question.
Hey! Hey, lady! See you tomorrow!
Wow, this character is really just the embodiment of secondhand embarrassment.
I was just wearing a disguise. You guys are stuck looking like that.
That is a wild thing to say. The American has been captured, leading to a scene explaining the villain's plan. Basically, by giving a car all-in-all, they're able to use an electromagnetic pulse to make the fuel a dangerous weapon. Gosh, I love how intimidating this scene is, as Professor Z explains the effects the camera's pulse has on the spy's engine.
Which one's your associate?
Your mother. Oh no, I'm sorry, it was your sister. You know, I can't tell them apart these days.
As they essentially force up the information that tells them Mater's the one with the photo. Wow, this movie is just brutal. I didn't expect it to go this far, but yeah, sure, just incinerate a car's internal organs. That's cool. We return back to the day of the race as the tracks and rules are established. I love the announcers' voices, each rooting for the car they know best. Daniel Cartrip of course boosts McQueen up, especially considering he's one of the main commentators for the Piston Cup and a previous winner, but I mainly recognize his voice from the old Cars video game. Whoa! He even mentions Hudson Hornet's dirt track ability, which will come in handy because one of the main obstacles in this track is a dirt section. The whole dirt track mechanic seems pretty unrealistic, but it adds a really fun element for this race. We're given more of Francesco's mocking before the race is set into motion. Schiffwall and McMissile watch from afar, commentating on Mater's ability to blend in despite not being a spy. Don't worry though, this bit definitely won't get dragged out. Some of these racing shots in this movie are just honestly beautiful. I mean, look at this almost POV shot of Francesco gaining his lead back, followed by one of the most iconic shots in the movie of all of the cars winding through the track. The excitement is cut off by the first use of the camera death, promptly allowing the bad guys to spot Mater in the pits. Different day now, we're back because my camera died and I only bought one battery. For those of you who want to complain about consistency and continuity, I would like to remind you that we're discussing Cars 2. The scene of all the enemies approaching Mater is so unbelievably intimidating. McMissile immediately leaving the scene without a second thought is just as thrilling. This first race honestly does an incredible job of balancing the spy business with the original's racing element that I wish the other races did as good of a job with. Mater's chatter with Schiffwell warning him leaks into McQueen's communication line, which foreshadows a bit of trouble, followed by another car failure on the camera. I love how the movie subverts your expectations by having Finn behind the garage, then having him deliver a killer line and then dart away so Mater can escape.
It's hard to believe I'm walking through the ruins of the first ever city, because I'm not. That's in Iraq, which is miles away.
Mater's chatter messes up McQueen, which you'd think he'd question the advice he's given when Mater's been spitting crap this whole time. McMissile keeps Mater's path clear, but runs into some trouble. Luckily, he's able to fend them off in the most brutal way possible, as their fight closes off with the intense end of the race.
Farewell.
Unfortunately now, their meetup has been completely jeopardized. One extremely sick and cheesy transition later, and we're back at the post-race interview where McQueen is placed second. McQueen sneaks away and confronts Mater in a really heartbreaking scene. I sort of get a lot of people's problems with this movie. In an attempt to make a movie about accepting people for who they are, you kind of just end up with a really obnoxious protagonist who disrupts those around him and can't really be self-aware. You can't blame McQueen for not accepting Mater when he cost him the race. But at the same time, Mater's predicament wasn't something he had control over, and McQueen should be understanding of his friend who clearly didn't mean to mess him up. It's a bit of a confusing conflict that honestly upsets me more than I find it compelling. McQueen tells Mater flat out how much of a burden he finds him, and that he doesn't need or want his help. That's such a devaluing thing to say to someone. Even when I look back at this movie as a fun and goofy spy film, I forget how truly devastating the character development process is for Mater. Telling the audience he's taken care of the problem, referring to Mater, is just heartbreaking. We cut back to Axelrod defending All after 3 cars flamed out, which, I'm not gonna lie, pretty bad odds. Here we see Mater at the airport, heading home because he feels like he's let his friends down. I love how one of the cars has to take off his wheels. It's hilarious how Pixar comes up with more things to reflect human traits. But it also implies that 9/11 happened in the universe, which, not gonna get into that, but it's even more horrifying considering planes are sentient. Anyway, McMissile comes up disguised as a police and speaks the most British Japanese, which would immediately blow any spy's cover before leading Mater away from security. I love Mater's little dialogue about his hook being attached as he's taken away. The attention to detail on his little ignored comments adds so much value to the dialogue scenes. He blatantly explains himself brutally Mortal Kombat and Luigi's battery from under his hood, and it is completely glossed over. McMissile removes his disguise and introduces himself to Mater. I absolutely adore Mater's average intelligence response to Finn telling him he's British intelligence. There are so many underrated jokes that still almost slip by me even after watching this movie for the 100th time. And is that a rocket launcher? Yeah, so this scene immediately escalates as Mater drags McMissile through the landing areas, missiles are fired, Finn's plane is just allowed to enter the airspace, and now I know why my luggage got lost. Did he just like drown in, like, who's gonna let him out? Did we think about that?
I kind of feel silly for admitting this, but I'm actually really nervous. This is my first time. We're gonna cry!
We cut back to the crew reading Mater's letter to them, apologizing for the inconvenience he caused. And I have one question for this movie. How did he go about writing this? Did his tires just come with opposable thumbs? Luigi and Guido getting all teary-eyed honestly leads to some of my favorite delivery in this movie as they try to read Mater's very stupid note.
Please tell the hotel I didn't mean to order that movie. I thought it was just a preview and I didn't realize I was paying for it.
McQueen's statement of relief knowing that Mater is safe is interrupted by the fact that he's in a spy jet that sounds like a laser gun for some reason.
That's how I like to start the day.
These jet scenes are mostly where people start to get their issues with this movie, primarily being Mater is unbelievably stupid. Meanwhile, Schiffwall and McMissile just sit there, smiling, unable to decipher that Mater is a complete idiot. The amount of gaslighting they've done to themselves to not be able to doubt Mater beyond the first secret code is insane. All of the racing and spy aspects of this movie are so awesome, and Mater lends himself to so many funny moments, but the amount of patience they must have to believe Mater is beyond me. Mater's commentary is unfortunately convenient when it needs to be, and that's what this movie relies on. He quite literally comes to the realization that they are spies 48 minutes into the movie, and they just move on as if nothing happened. His swooning over Holly is obnoxious, his behavior is annoying, and then boom, the music hits, McMissile starts talking about strategy, and then the movie starts working again. There's just too many moments that salvage this whole scene. Finn's "you're helping me" and Holly's "me too" when Mater says he's always wanted to be a spy are both so heartwarming. The combination of Mater excited to be involved and Holly really reflecting on her aspirations of working in the spy field is so sweet to me. As she stated, she's just in diagnostics. So being in the heat of an investigation obviously feels important to her character. And now we move to Paris. Because obviously that's where we need to progress. Europe is where the next race is. I feel like every time I watch this, I forget that they go to both France and Italy, so it gives a bit more of a world tour feel than just the locations of the races. And I'm not just saying that because I think all of Europe is the same. I promise I'm from America. Gosh, I love the adorable montage scene of the team in Paris. The background design, the music, the little nod to Gusteau's from Ratatouille. Mater's attempt at stealthing around is just so simple yet effective. We also get probably one of the most confusing and traumatizing moments in the whole Cars trilogy, with absolutely no answers. What is this reflective of? Why are no other cars like this? Why aren't the eyes on the windshield? It's almost reflective of other cartoon car depictions, but it's just so baffling. Why does she have a steering wheel? Are all cars hollow? I think I'm just gonna move on for now and never look back. Moving promptly onwards, Mater ruins yet another stealth mission, leading to another chase scene as the team pushes after McMissile's informant. Holly tasers the car after he's already clearly trapped, which McMissile shames her for. A, he gave them zero briefing, all they knew was to chase after the car, and B, he yelled at her. This scene is really pointless. I get they're showing she's an amateur, but didn't we already get that when she didn't jump the ramp GTA style? I love Tombei's design. His 3 wheels are so unique without raising any design problems, unlike another character. I love how he says McMissile's high in mileage, since that makes sense as an alternative way of telling age in this world. I promise though, not all I do is gush about the car's symbolism in this movie. Here, the main crew starts to piece together the Lemon Theory, in which all the cars thereafter all seem to fit the build of run down and forgotten, quote, losers. They discern that the car behind the whole plan is the one depicted in the engine photo implanted on Mater. Tombei knows of a secret meeting of cars that should seemingly never get along, planned to be held in Italy. Now aboard a train heading for Italy, Holly comes up with a plan to have Mater impersonate one of the trucks towing a head lemon to the meeting. I swear every cut in this movie is the result of some extremely obvious dialogue. Mater saying, "I sure wish my friends could see me now," is cute, but extremely cliche for what transitions Pixar could pull off. Luigi and Guido, now back home in Italy, get a chance to reconnect with their family. I'm glad they give some chance to develop some of the Radiator Springs characters, even if most of them are left home in this movie. It may not be a whole side plot or backstory to them, but seeing a bit more about their origins adds a lot more depth than funny fast Italian pit crew. In Italy, Uncle Topolino and McQueen share honestly one of the most heartwarming and impactful scenes in the whole movie.
How'd you know that? A wise car hears one word and understands 2. That Luigi told me.
God, this movie is gold. I find this moment in the movie to be really impactful and tell a good message on friendship. Sure, it's a simple lesson to teach, but it's told in such a wise way from Topolino, with a fun scene of Luigi and Guido compromising, that I can't help but love it every time I watch this movie. As far as scenes meant to show the importance of friendship go, this one's pretty up there. And now we're back to oil being consumed. What is he supposed to do with corks in the wine? Is he supposed to drive over it? But look at this. Right after one heartwarming scene, we immediately get another. Wait. Not yet. We have to have Mater tell the disguise machine to turn him into a taco truck first. I guess we're back to eating human food now, although it's shown later to drop metallic tacos, probably as some car amenity or because the disguise can't produce real food, but it still implies that tacos are a food that has been made.
Hey, come here. Make me a German truck.
Maybe we don't do that? Okay, now we can have the heartwarming scene. So basically, Mater's disguise won't work because he has dents that he refuses to repair, which to me sounds like a skill issue on the machine's part. When Holly tries to fix the dents, Mater tells her that he holds a lot of value in them. To him, the dents are reminders of the time he spent with McQueen, which is actually really sweet. Finn tells him that friendships are dangerous to have as a spy, as if he didn't just gain intel from a friend and tell Mater how much he appreciates him. Then, even when Mater says, on God, he's just a tow truck, Finn still feels the need to make a sarcastic remark, like, brother, it's right in front of you. He also implies that iPhones exist in the world and that cars can use them, which makes absolutely zero sense. Does this imply that Lightning McQueen can play Clash of Clans?
Oh, my PC.
Anyway, what was I watching? Oh right, a G-rated movie. And now we've arrived in Italy, which I've never noticed the blimp that says Lightyear and not Goodyear, which is honestly such an amazing Easter egg. I love how this movie makes use of race commentators as a means to establish the cities. We see the beautiful landscapes, buildings, luxurious cars, a car jump into the water.
Everyone who's anyone is here today.
We even see the Pope Mobile, which implies that there might be like a car Jeepus? I don't know. Apparently there are many things wrong with the existence of a Pope in the Cars universe, but once again, I'm nowhere near qualified enough to speak about that. As we make our way to the race, Francesco continues to be one of my favorite rivals in this universe.
Gee, I maybe misjudged you because that's exactly...
Of course, I am at home, and my mama is right here.
I don't think there's one piece of dialogue from Francesco that I don't absolutely adore.
McQueen is very sad. I will beat his cry baby bottom today.
Yup. Not one. I heard this in another video, but I really appreciate how Francesco is a fair rival. He doesn't cheat, he just uses his skill and incredible ability to insult McQueen to his advantage. And honestly, that makes him an extremely enjoyable antagonist. I love how quickly this race starts, unlike the hours of pre-show from Eddie Modern Sport in real life. I will say though, This race is definitely the second Triwizard task of races. They cannot see anything going on. Like, I imagine the viewers are just sitting there and then get brief moments of excitement for each lap. Back to the spy plan. Holly, seduces the tow truck?
Over me, Signore Tow Truck.
But unfortunately, Mater gets a little nervous. Finn completely ruins Mater's self-esteem when he makes comments under the assumption that Mater's behavior is all an act. He calls Mater an idiot, which from the idea that it's a disguised personality makes sense. But to Mater, the things he says are absolutely devastating. Mater has to hurry though, applying his disguise and taking the place of the tow truck Holly just zapped into 2030. Luckily, the computer overlaying disguise completely forgot to change Mater's eye color, which I feel like would be a dead giveaway that this is not the same guy. Also, the iconically large teeth Mater has, but those are iconic and a bit harder to change. With Mater now inside of the casino, we're given the chance to see more of the race, and boy do I wish we got more of this in the movie. The Pixar team is phenomenal at making these races look so good every time. Back to the casino. God, I love the voices of the casino workers.
Number 4, easy 4.
If only they weren't broken up by the lady selling air fresheners, which I'm still trying to understand why those are being sold and what that implies. Is it like cologne? Why would they be selling cologne in a casino? Would it go in their inside? How would they put it in their insides? Would it go on their outside? This universe is so unbelievably complicated. Mater once again proves his complete incompetence by speaking very loud to Holly in his earpiece, but like without the ear. I actually really like the part where he drops this lemon car's full name out of nowhere and proceed to list off every country he's wanted in. Okay, maybe some of Mater's stupid moments are actually funny. Holly manages to interrupt before Mater doxes this whole man and his family, which made me realize that Holly is spelled with an E, so now I need to rewrite this whole script. Thank God J. Kirby Gremlin is here from Detroit, a way to represent the great state of Michigan. I love how there are actual lemons decorating the meeting. It's such an obvious touch that managed to go over my head until now. We hear a knock at the door, anticipating the big reveal of our villain. And it's just Professor Z. Also, why was there knocking at the door? He literally drove up after it opened. This makes no sense. Unfortunately, the villain won't be coming to the meeting in person, but will be joining a Zoom call from home.
No, I'm way too comfortable in my wingtips.
Just call anonymously.
You call anonymously!
I can't. They know me. They know my voice. They'll know me.
Welcome, everyone. Dragons have invaded Dave & Buster.
Forget about it.
I thought you were from Detroit. He gets the lemons all riled up with their position in society and how poorly they're treated, before bringing the attention to the TV screens, showing cars burning out in the race. The group's motive is further emphasized, showing how they will be able to laugh back at the world when they have control over its oil. Holly detects the camera gun, very obviously placed near the accidents, although I guess its main disguise is that it's a camera. Anyway, Finn races off to try to stop them. I love this scene of him driving through the city. It's so fun and reminiscent of so many spy movie chase scenes. We cut to a car roof angle shot of McQueen, then back to Finn. The music builds as the big boss's monologue continues. Finn makes a jump over the rooftop to stop the lemons and, oh no, we just break up this intense scene with Finn getting captured. But what captured him, you might ask? A crane magnet, perhaps? No, McMissile, the great British spy, was unable to hear a helicopter flying just meters above him. What? How?
You think I didn't think of that? Of course I thought of that.
The villain's speech looms over the scene, and the music reaches its height as another car gets hit.
Long live Lemon!
This final hit causes a very graphic pileup on the track. This scene is so hard to watch every time for some reason. I know they're just cartoon vehicles with eyes for windshields, but it's still so painful. McQueen beats out Francesco on his own turf, only for them to both come to the realization of what happened. I love McQueen's reaction, wondering where the competitors went.
This is impossible. That's what I'm talking about. Ka-chow! What happened? Where are all the other cars?
Axelrod gives a press conference, seen on the TV from the Lemons meeting room, where he announces that the next race is still on, but won't be run on All in All. As Mater tries to leave, McQueen announces that he'll stick to All in All. This is treated as a really dumb scene by most people, saying McQueen could obviously tell it was dangerous, but I think it makes complete sense. McQueen's whole problem he's trying to overcome is trusting and understanding his friends. He's basing his answer off his fuel team. He says Fillmore vouches for them, and I completely get that. You find out later that Fillmore doesn't trust All in All, so he switched McQueen's fuel, which makes this scene even more fair because no matter what, McQueen relied on and can trust his crew to have his best interest in mind. And as he said, he's not going to make the same mistake twice. Fortunately, instead of the villain's plan succeeding, All in All is still alive, but unfortunately for McQueen, this places a massive target on his back to finally prove the fuel isn't quote-unquote safe. The news that McQueen needs to be killed, once again, G-rated movie, makes Mater stammer back, causing his disguise to malfunction. Once again, silly Mater. This causes all of the cars to promptly pull out and aim all of the guns they have at him. And instead of opening fire, they wait until he accidentally fires 2 whole Gatling guns because his dialogue choice is very convenient.
You absolute buffoon. What you have there is not clips. These are mags.
Which makes me think, what the hell was Mater's self-defense strategy if this didn't work? Death? Gosh, the convenient perfect gear at every moment of his escape is really frustrating from a plot point, but really entertaining for anyone not too focused on that. Mater is able to spot McQueen immediately from a very long ways away with whatever 20/20 vision he has. He hooks onto the boat and begins parasailing to McQueen, to which the boat replies with the caption, "Whoa, what's this?" I cannot believe this movie's dialogue choices sometimes. Now, ignoring the obvious physics being defied in this scene, Mater crashes into a Francesco stand, and now has to rush through security looking like, that. It's okay, at least he didn't fall into a Spencer's. Real talk though, I hate this scene of Mater trying to reach McQueen so much. It's so frustrating that he's interrupted and moved on from when McQueen obviously heard Mater's voice. I love slowing down this part of McQueen getting his picture taken though.
McQueen, they're gonna kill you! Mater! Signore, please!
You'll be finished at the finish line.
Mater's become captured, hotboxed worse than a frat house, and now we're given a reflective gas trip. Mater hears Finn's line again before seeing all of the scenes he's been blamed for, now from an outside perspective. This scene starts getting pretty overwhelming, as the gong sound in his dream is matched by that of Big Bentley, where he and the others are being held. I thought growing up that Big Bentley was a British nickname for Big Ben, but nope, it's just a really bad car pun. We find the crew stuck in London, the location of the next race, tied to the gears inside of the tower. It's a shame they didn't do more with the car-styled architecture of this city, but I guess it works. I love how this shot jumps from the inside of the crew being pushed towards their impending doom to the outside of the hand of the clock, just turning a minute. I'm happy this scene finally breaks the trope of Finn being clueless as to if Mater's a spy, since he blatantly yells this time that he isn't one, which echoes all throughout the room. Mater admits the situation is his fault, and without getting a chance to receive comfort on that, 2 lemons arrive to reveal that this is where they will be killing McQueen. It's honestly a pretty impressive range of the camera. I find it hard to get my car to lock when I'm more than 20 feet away. The rest of the Radiator Springs team arrives to tell McQueen that Mater never ended up at home. I'm glad we're given more screen time with the rest of the group, even if it's to deliver the bad news. Axelrod comes over to thank McQueen for still using All in All, which is a really sweet scene unless you know what's going on here. We get to see the depiction of the Queen in this world before Schlatt came along, and once again starts the 3rd and final race of the World Grand Prix. It just occurred to me they considered a world tour 3 major cities, but I feel like Britain, Japan, and Italy are pretty good choices for those 3. This race makes a lot more sense for the spectators and hosts a nice, bright, and beautiful, cloudy London day. While I wish the 3rd act wasn't predictably on a cloudy day, it kinda makes sense and fits the tone. For some reason, he was using natural gasoline, McQueen didn't blow up when the right hit him, which causes the lemons to move to plan B. A bomb in McQueen's pit. I guess that it might prove it's dangerous if his fuel tank is there, but I feel like the whole point is to prove that it's dangerous when driving. Either way, it leads to one of the most fire lines in this movie.
We snuck a bomb in McQueen's pit.
The next time he makes a stop, instead of saying ka-chow, he's gonna go ka.
Mater is frustrated, and so he lets out his signature dadgum, which, as seen, activates his Gatling guns. But unfortunately, the lemons took out his bullets. He discovers that even without bullets, the gun still managed to spin enough to cut the ropes. Most people I've seen have a problem with the gun still being attached, but in my eyes, it was just an oversight from the lemons, or something that was physically impossible to remove from Mater. He's able to escape from the ropes, to which Holly tells him, get more dents, and save everyone. That's such a sweet line because it shows how quickly she's able to understand and accept Mater's appreciation for dents. If their romance wasn't so forced and awkward, I would actually love them together. And so Mater sets off, leaving Holly and Finn behind. This part is so somber, as they both know that Mater needed to believe they'd be safe so he could go. Finn's pun actually gives Holly an idea, and she's somehow able to taser their electronics, which, again, good job removing their weapons. This is actually an incredible moment that took a lot of precision to get right, and so the 2 are able to escape.
What's everybody on the wrong side of the road for?
Also, I'm just gonna say it, that is such a good joke for absolutely no reason other than its delivery. Holly somehow transforms into a flying car, deploying wings which, This would have been useful before. Why is this just now a thing?
What do you think? A spaceship is just gonna appear out of the blue? Are you kidding me?
It's a new day, it's light out, let's get back into this. Just as the gang is about to escape, they stumble upon Mater's, thing? I don't really know what this is. Is he gonna pick up?
Hello?
Hello? Hey, so you know the movie Cars 2?
Yeah.
You're like a car guy, right? So, when Mater sort of gets the bomb planted on him and he leaves behind that one circular thing, and then McMissile and Schiffel kind of run into it. I don't know if you remember any of this, but when they kind of run into it, do you know what that's called? Like on a car?
Like an air filter?
Oh, is that all it is? It's just like an air filter?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
I probably okay. Well, thank
Google search could have told you that.
Yeah, quick Google search. All right. Well, thanks.
Yep. All right. I'll
All
see
right.
you later.
Yeah, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you too.
They immediately deduce that the bomb wasn't on McQueen. Rather, it has been strapped to Mater. Now, that makes even less sense because what does a random tow truck exploding prove anything about all in all? Anyway, the race is now on to get to the course. Mater bypasses security for the third time this movie and then makes his way to the pit. As soon as he gets there, Finn alerts him that the bomb is in fact in his hood right as McQueen pulls up, sending Mater into a backwards drive onto the course in an attempt to avoid him. Gosh, this scene is so frustrating because Mater's telling McQueen he's the bomb, but McQueen is telling Mater, yeah, he is the bomb, like metaphorically, and now they're in this big chase and it's very, I don't know how to word it, but this third act is just rough. Right as McQueen grabs Mater's hook, Mater accidentally activates his boosters, which also probably would have come in handy earlier.
Shut up and hold this rope.
This sends them out of the range of the bomb activation device. Also, I absolutely adore McQueen's reaction to the boosters. It is so perfect.
Request acknowledged.
Oh my gosh.
They blast in front of Francesco and completely out of the racetrack, somehow dodging every car in their path. Holly flies down to meet Professor Z, who cartoonishly leaps out the back window, and so Finn chases after him. Francesco's exasperated reactions to the spy plot happening simultaneously is so funny to me. It's a shame we don't get to see more racing in this movie, since it's put to the side for the spy shenanigans, but it also would have been hard to make a balance completely 50-50, since it's just a supporting side plot. I love Professor Z's attempted escape as Finn leaps over the railing. We get a beautiful POV as he sparks up the pavement and latches onto the professor. Real quick though, I feel like the sound design for this movie is not nearly appreciated enough. It's basically 2 hours of car ASMR, and I am so here for it. Unfortunately for McMissile, the obvious military-grade boat sitting in the middle of London activates a magnet that pulls them both towards the ship, sucking up Finn's equipment with it. I don't know why this scene makes me feel so uncomfortable. Like, I love the professor's monocle flying, but the way the rockets leave Finn's light slot is just, it feels weird to me. As Finn dodges the boat's missiles, it's in his name after all, he comes up with a quick plan and unleashes an unprecedented amount of explosives onto the boat's magnet, leading to hands down the sickest off-screen death in this movie. Holly, still flying mind you, spots 2 lemon cars approaching and sweeps them off the road and sends them flying into a bar to get beat up. I feel like the world needs to appreciate more McQueen's question of who the hell put a bomb on Mater. Like, he has absolutely no idea what's going on. All he knows is his friend went missing and came back with rockets behind him and a bomb strapped to his hood. The professor's smug callback to Holly saying everything's voice activated these days is pretty funny, and I love how cheeky his delivery is in this scene.
Deactivate. Voice denied.
Whoa!
Oh, I'm not the one who activated it. Would anyone else like to try?
I always wish he was the main villain in this film, since his character is so sarcastic, but at the same time, he fits a lot better as this placeholder / second in command. I'm proud Holly gets to shock him though, so maybe she does get some closure to the other scene. The gang is completely surrounded now. Mater gets a quick moment to monologue before the violence ensues. The group gets to show off their moves in a very clunky and almost turn-based fight scene, but luckily the other Radiator Springs characters get to come in and redeem their 10 seconds of screen time. Also, Flo, flashes? One of them? It's nice to see them all make use of their own methods of fighting off these lemons with what tools they're known for. Mater gets his chance to show off his fighting skills though, which is really sweet. This scene is pretty heartwarming and a really nice little finishing fight scene against the lemons, even if the pacing of the actual moves is pretty awkward since they're all, you know, cars. And I love the feeling when they're stopped by Sarge's military buddies. It's kind of like the nail in the coffin for the group's victory.
Oi.
Oh wait, never mind. Mater still has an entire bomb attached to him. None of Guido's drills are able to work on Mater, but now he has a plan. But not before needing to be brought back up by McQueen. It's nice to see McQueen really appreciate Mater in this scene and redeem himself after how he treated him. It's a really good moment of trust that McQueen is able to place in Mater, thanks to the help and self-reflecting he did. I'm really glad this movie sends the message of not just being who you are, but also supporting those who want to be themselves too. And so the gang races off once again. We're given a nice rendition of the original theme, this time on banjo for some reason. I don't know how, but it works really, really well. Mater is somehow able to have full control of a high-power rocket-propelling machine and a parachute at the same time, managing to conveniently bring them to the Queen's location. Obviously, this movie has a lot that needs to be overlooked in order to be taken seriously, but come on here.
Who's winning the race?
Who do you think? I don't... What a hilarious question to be asking. Mater makes his case with the Queen, but not before revealing that he has a bomb in his hood, understandably causing the entire security team to freak the hell out.
Dude, check the news. It doesn't matter what channel.
Everybody down!
The missile charges in. Also, how did everyone get here so fast? That was a super long ways away. Mater gets down to the point, thanks to Finn's interruption, allowing the true culprit to be revealed.
Just cut to the chase. Okay, it's him. What? Me?
Okay, so Axelrod is the true culprit behind everything, and Mater was able to uncover that all by himself. Honestly, that's a pretty good reveal and a pretty big win for Mater. He proceeds to give every reason for why Axelrod is the villain behind it all. The bolts being the same from the photograph, the oil being blamed on him, the idea of all in all being used as a method to make alternative fuel look bad. Even with everyone doubting him, Mater stays strong in his beliefs.
This is going nowhere fast.
We really should go, Grandmother.
One moment. I'd like to see where this is going.
Okay, are you insane? Like, just leave. Anyway, it's really impressive for Mater to stay so strong when he really isn't basing it on that much evidence. Tension builds, the cars brace for impact, the guards take cover, and then...
Deactivate!
Bomb deactivated. Have a nice day, Sir Axelrod.
I love this reveal so much. I don't care how predictable this villain is, how obvious the cars won't blow up is. This scene is such an amazing buildup of suspense, and a perfect reveal that Axelrod is behind it all. People who say Axelrod didn't make sense as a villain or didn't get enough screen time to be an antagonist don't really change my stance on him that much. We see his plan in action. It comes so close to fruition, and yet he made grave mistakes along the way, letting Mater piece together the mystery. Something only someone with his level of attention to car details and workings could do. He might be an idiot to some, but in this moment, he's truly a genius spy. Axelrod, the man behind the hood, has been unmasked. And there we see the hood of the photo. The hood of the car who managed to fake being electric all along.
Fucking piece of shit!
McQueen promises to bring Mater to all of his races from now on. Mater's officially knighted by the Queen.
McQueen, McMissile, McMissile.
And we finally return to Radiator Springs. Mater's able to tell his story to the visitors of the town when Holly comes in to confirm it all. I love how they call Luigi's email an emergency communique. Holly even addresses herself as Mater's girlfriend. I can't wait for that to be expanded upon in the third movie. And we get a really cute moment explaining how she kept her dent because it holds value to her. Fillmore explains that he replaced McQueen's oil because he never trusted All in All, finally explaining why McQueen didn't explode from the camera ray. Also, All in All turned out to be just gasoline that was designed to explode when it was hit by the beam, which makes sense, but I find it so funny that it was just gasoline. In the final scene of this movie, we get a beautiful callback to the original as all the racers come back for a final race around the Radiator Springs track. McQueen got a bumper sticker to get back at Francesco, and Sally continues to prove that her character kinda sucks in this movie. I love this final race though. It's a nice conclusion for the racers who never got to fully compete without interference, and the desert aesthetic is just so iconic.
Finn, time to go. Sidley's gassed, geared, and ready to fly.
Finn and Holly get to say their goodbyes. It's a really sweet scene between them all, as Mater chooses to stay behind. Holly keeps the offer of a second date, and they both set off. But before that...
Did you see that sucker over there? 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds.
This movie has such a bizarre ending. Mater reaches speeds that don't even seem real, overtakes the world's fastest racers, and somehow McQueen is just able to accelerate to meet him, finally ending off with the spy jet flying away into the distance. Before I move on, I feel like the credit sequence could warrant its own segment, but I'll just mention it briefly. The beautiful montage of the characters traveling around the world in this 2D postcard style is so perfect. There are so many Easter eggs in this small credit sequence, and the music is just such a fitting country duet. I'm sure there's a lot to be said about these two artists, I just don't know them nearly enough. I do know these lyrics are hilarious though, like seriously, meat and potatoes, bangers and mash, like who came up with that? And so that marks the end of Cars 2. In making this video, I decided to look on YouTube to see if anyone shared my thoughts for this movie. Turns out, a lot of people didn't like it.
I want you to have it.
I don't really want this.
I mean, I'll take it if you don't want it, Alan.
The main criticism I hear about this movie is that it focuses on the comic relief character. I'm not sure if I look past Mater when watching this movie, but I think it's a lot more to do with his chemistry rather than his character on its own. Cause yeah, an hour and 45 minutes of Tow Mater using random quips and making stupid remarks sounds horrible, but I think this movie has a good enough supporting cast where it manages to work. Sure, McQueen is a better main character, by a long shot, but I feel like his story's already been told. He's been mentored, loved, befriended, and competed with. So why not let Mater have the same? If you want to separate Cars 1 and 3 from the blatantly different middle child, then that's completely fair. Pixar actively tries to do the same. As a sequel, does it succeed like many others do? I think that's up for the viewer to decide. But I think I can stand some ground when I say this movie delivers a fun and exciting action story. There's such a charm to it that makes me able to sit through it time and time again. Probably the soundtrack. Mainly the soundtrack.
I hate your taste in music.
Don't care. God, the soundtrack is so good. Bringing on Michael Giacchino, someone who's worked on Mission Impossible, The Incredibles, and Sky High was perfect. It was destined to be amazing. But seriously, the high-paced spy themes contrasted with mellow string pieces is so beautiful. I am still convinced this movie led to my love for media soundtracks. At the time I watched this, I only had in-depth experience with like Kids Bop and Minecraft parodies.
I think I'm gonna do Eye the Spider, which I think is gonna go in D tier?
What? Dude, that's like A tier at least. Are you stupid?
The main trouble is comparing this movie with other Pixar films. Some movies can just be dumb fun, and I think this was Pixar's attempt at that. It isn't telling a deeper story, delivering heartbreaking moments, or trying to speak to the audience's personal struggles and ambitions. It's just cars. With guns this time. It's an around-the-globe spy thriller, and you know what? That's okay. I don't really see where people who say this is one big, elongated Mater short are coming from. To that I say nay, it is the ultimate Mater tall tale. The supreme Mater tall tale. Plus, it just has enough actual plot to back it up. I do wish Cars 2 was treated more as a spin-off to the main series. That would give a lot more respect to the movie, rather than seeing Lightning McQueen's character development and racing moments and feeling ripped off. Having Cars 3 become the sequel to Cars 1 would actually work pretty well, and Mater getting his own movie would feel the same as the Plane series, just dealing with the same cast as Cars 1.
He won 3 piston cups.
He did what in his cup?
Instead, Cars 2 kind of comes in and makes the world inconsistent. I love the experience of the movie, but I can't deny it deviates a bit from the already wonky laws of the universe in Cars 1. Cars 1 established all landscapes to center around cars, and most public areas and domiciles to fit car needs. Whereas Cars 2 sort of just has the human world, without any thought of how the cars live in some spaces. Another thing Cars 2 introduced was food instead of only oil-based diets for cars, which was a weird decision to make, I'll admit. That's it, I have no excuse, this was a stupid decision. But A, some of the locations do have modifications to their landscape, albeit the towns don't work as well for cars as Radiator Springs did. And B, it's a film about traveling around the world, we're gonna need to introduce some food. Unless you want different flavors of oil. Wait, what if you're allergic? Can cars have allergies? Do cars have organs?
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
The unfortunate thing is, you need to move past a lot of what the Cars universe does in order to appreciate it. It's not perfect. There's plenty of inconsistencies. But at the end of the day, they're just trying to parallel the human world and tell a story that uses the universe of Cars as a medium. Should Pixar have enough planning and world building to make everything consistent? Probably yes. Did they do that? No. And you know what? That's alright. You can enjoy the excitement and thrill of spy cars as long as the immersion isn't broken every 20 seconds. Was Cars 2 a means to sell more toys and profit off the original without putting much thought into a good story? Most likely. But I think for a movie that people claim didn't try, there are so many more exciting and comedic moments within the film. And you know what? Even if it was just for marketing toys, It sure as hell worked. Hell, even the video game that stemmed from the movie is pretty good.
Well, technically, to consider these missions mastered, you'd have to place first in each of them. Which, you haven't.
Ah, the lemons. Another major criticism of this movie is the complexity of the main conflict. Compared to the other two movies, this one's main conflict is overly complicated. It centers around the attempt to use the bad reputation of All to bury the possibility of an alternative fuel, profiting the lemons in control of the largest oil plant. Their idea is to get back at the world for mocking them and to obtain wealth as payback. Which confuses me, because even though Axelrod was caught, wouldn't they still have control over the oil industry? And how does the unfortunate circumstance of one fuel brand suddenly mean the research of alternative fuel is completely over? Like, isn't this world based on cars who need fuel to run? Surely someone will come along and try again. Even with the Lemons' plan being obviously flawed, I can still look past it, since the idea of profiting off of your own downfall sounds pretty awesome and makes sense as a way to get back at the world. I just wish there weren't so many continuity issues with it.
Editing Tyler here to say, Axelrod already had an oil fortune. Like, he had billions of dollars to create massive worldwide change. Also kind of the start of the whole twist villain phase, which isn't ideal.
That was his mistake.
It's easy to see how Cars 2 got a mixed reaction based on the year it came out. I mean, you're getting compared to Hop, The Smurfs, and Romeo and Juliet. You're telling me a James Bond parody with talking cars is the movie that people choose to have a problem with this year when we got Alvin and the Chipmunks chipwrecked? Actually, that's just a completely unfair argument. Cars 2 had to compete against Rango, which won Best Animated Feature this year. But also, it didn't deviate from the current trend of films. A month prior, we saw Kung Fu Panda 2, which was both a sequel and a darker continuation of the original story. And a year before that, we saw Toy Story 3. So it's not like audiences weren't used to the current trend of more maturely animated content. It was just the way that Cars 2 presented it. Cars 2 is also largely a comedy. It might base itself around the action, but the majority of the screen time is spent around puns or some comedic gag. And that's largely due to how much Mater is put on the center pedestal. He is dragged around the plot, which is severely different from how the protagonist of a story should behave. The conflict of a story drives the plot. In this case, it's the Lemon's secret plan and the overall threat of a mysterious hidden villain. The protagonist, in this case Mater, is the one driving the story towards an ultimate resolution. So when all Mater does is stumble around his own story, it kind of loses that forward momentum. And while this argument is valid, I take away a much different perspective from this movie. Mater himself is a supportive character of Agent McMissile and Shiftwell. He is the one advancing the story, and ultimately they support each other as a team. Mater is trying to prove himself through opposing the Lemons, yes, but that's merely a loud narrative that takes up most of the central story beats. The big conflict Mater is going through is in his friendship with McQueen. We see this as it's established in the beginning, developed in the second act, and resolved at the end. And in the opposite direction, you have McQueen's slow acceptance of Mater and understanding of how to be a good friend to him. The spy action lends itself as both pure entertainment and a catalyst for Mater and McQueen's conflict. So sure, it's not a perfect movie, but I think it has a lot more going on than people give it credit for. Is Cars 2 as compelling as the original? Not really, but I think people give it a bad reputation because it's Pixar and it's the follow-up to Cars. But if you look at the movie and try to find the charm in it, it's there. All over. And all in all, nope, not ending on a fuel pun, I'm proud to call Cars 2 the best of the worst Pixar films as people claim. There's no way any amount of convincing can tell me this movie isn't good. It's just animated cars, fighting with guns, learning about friendship, and traveling the world. So what if it's full of dumb jokes and inconsistencies? Cars 2 is extremely special. Not just as a sequel, but as a movie in the Pixar lineup. And so what if it led to the downfall of bad Pixar sequels? It did so by being an action-packed spy parody with great puns, intense violence, and good character growth. I love this movie with all of my heart, and I'm glad the world is finally coming around to it. Thank you, Cars 2. But why are you rated G? This renewable... Say renewable... Try saying renewable... Not yet. And now we arrive in Paris. That's not right. And now we've arrived in Italy. I think you got the deer. I think it's dead.